Hello, my name is Brian, and I'm creating this video as a piece of my final project in a class I'm enrolled at in University of Washington, Tacoma, Criminalization of Immigration, instructed by Professor Rich Furman. Today I'm going to briefly touch about some of the issues that people that maintain undocumented status might have to endure on a daily basis or overcome that those of us who maintain residency or citizenship don't even think twice about. I'm positive that there are many more than I have time to cover here in this short vignette, but I'm going to focus on three areas that I personally feel strong about and are worth taking note of. Right, and I feel that driving, right, is kind of not ever brought up or thought about. Education is another one, kind of just there, and health, access to health care. Now, these simple things that are in my daily life, right, that I take for granted on a daily basis, um, might not be so, right, might not, others might not enjoy that luxury, you know. So, first, let's get some data perspective, I guess, so we kind of know what we're talking about, what the population is that we're talking about, right? There are an estimated between 10 and 11 million undocumented people in the country right now, right? And it's estimated that undocumented immigrants make up approximately 3.2% of the total U.S. population and 4% of the workforce, right? These numbers are estimates, right? And they're probably smaller than the actual numbers because the population we're talking about doesn't necessarily trust the system that wants to deport them because they have deemed them as being illegal, right? That's a whole conversation that he's unpacking when we think about that. You know, there are 7 million estimated undocumented immigrants helping to create and build major sectors of the workforce today. Right, 5 million of them are serving alongside of Americans on the front line of the coronavirus pandemic. Right, as farm workers, healthcare workers, laborers, custodians. Right. So, right, in one form, right, they share these privileges. Right, on the other form, we actively deny them, right, the rights that come along with them. Right. The National Association of Secondary Principals estimate that there are over 1 million undocumented children and youth residing in the U.S. today. Right. I share these statistics so when we start this conversation um, about what most of us take for granted are real barriers to those people within our borders that our system, our government, and our policies and laws have made them illegal, right? You know, one of the most basic rights that most of us American adults have and enjoy and look forward to, right, as a huge milestone in life and something that, like, a lot of us can't imagine being without, is the right to hold a driver's license, right? So we can come and go as we please, right? I know when I was a kid, right, at 13, 14, I was looking forward to 16 so I could drive and go do what I wanted to, right? This is something that we truly do take for granted. Now imagine if you live in a state that didn't allow undocumented citizens, undocumented immigrants to drive, right? Think about the fear that would carry with it when you got behind the wheel. And as I said earlier, right? What is it? They make up 4% of the workforce, right? So how do they get to work? Right? They have to drive, right? And even if they have to go get groceries, they have to drive. Are they going to take the bus? Well, if they're migrant workers, I'm pretty sure that there aren't many buses in the areas where people produce food are at, right? So options become limited, right? And these are, imagine having to take care of your day to days with this fear of being deported for just going out for a drive. taking your kids to school, going to church, going shopping, or going to work, right? Now, according to the LA Daily News, Los Angeles Daily News report, right? Uh, the position of the Trump administration uh, greatly is greatly expanding was greatly expanding the number of people living in the U.S. illegally who are considered a priority for deportation, including people arrested for traffic violations. Right? Get deported for not wearing your seatbelt, for a rolling stop. I mean, just think about it. Or, right? It's it's a policy of some border states to racially profile people that are pulling over. Right? Whether it's stated out loud or not. If you look Latinx, you face scrutiny of your local police force. That's you know when we think of undocumented immigrants, right? Our minds don't necessarily track to the neighborhood elementary school, right? But over 1.9 million undocumented children and youth um, are within the border of the United States of America and are entitled and cannot refuse enrollment to our school systems. This is as ruled by the United States Supreme Court, uh, a court ruling of Flyer versus Doe, right? So think about what hurdles these or what hardships these children face on a daily basis, right? First off, we just start by saying, first of all, they try and become small, unseen, right? Unnoticed, because they don't want anything to track back to their family, right? For fear of losing their family, right? Or having family be lost, or whatever that looks like. I can't even imagine, right? But also because we're not readily, we don't have the resources for all of our schools nationally to support ESL, right? English as second language, right? So there's language barriers which inhibit education process, right? Which delay learning ability, right? And the fact that children are different, right? Come from different cultures and share different perspectives and different sentiments and behave different. They're subject to the potential of bullying within the school, right? Now, I like to talk about, one's health, right? Let's think about that, right? On any given day, if I feel sick, right, sick to my tummy, oh, or if I stub my toe really, really hard, it hurts like heck, right? But I call my primary caregiver, and the nurse there, or whoever answers the phone, will reassure me that I just stubbed my toe. But if I feel I need to, let's make an appointment. But if it starts affecting me, or if my toe falls off, right, go to the ER as a last resort. Right? So undocumented, undocumented individuals, right, don't have this luxury, right, because they don't have access to health care, right? Think about that piece, right? We'll go back up to the 4.4 million, 4 million, whatever, 4%, that's the one. 4% of the workforce within this country are eligible for health insurance. Let's think about this. Under the PPACA, the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act, right? An employer that employs more than 200 employees is federally mandated to provide health insurance to employees. Well, let's think about agricultural work, right? Meat processing plants. They became essential workers over the pandemic, right? Right. So, so the majority of the people that work in agriculture, right, are undocumented, right? And the majority of the employers employ more than 200 people, right? So even though federal law says one thing, because they don't maintain status as citizens, they're disqualified. So what this means in the big picture is that if they stub their toe, they can't call their primary, right? So what happens is if they stub their toe, if they can ignore it, they do. Right. So what I'm saying is a little problem that you go to your physical or your checkup for, or talk to your primary caregiver for, right, that can be treated in time, is put off until it becomes no longer bearable, and then it's taken to the emergency room. At that point, what could have been avoided has now become a major issue, potentiality, right, to become a major issue. So this is happening on a daily basis, right? The lack of health care. I mean, this point right here, I'm impassioned about. So, what, what am I talking about, right? Living on a daily basis as an undocumented citizen comes with hurdles, right? That I personally um, never think about or ever have to deal with, right? I want, I mean, all anybody wants is a place to belong, all right? And I think I should probably end on a quote or a story of a person I met in a town called Hayward, California, right? And he was an undocumented young man. He said, I crossed the border, they caught me, and they took me back. When I got back to the other side, I came across again. They caught me again, and they took me back. He repeated this story 7 more times, the same thing of being caught and brought back. But it wasn't until the 8th time that the story changed. And the 8th time he said he was now an American, right? Which means he didn't get caught, and he was now in the country of the United States. That dream that it speaks of, right? His personal perspective, just being here, right, made him an American, and that opened up opportunity for him and his family, right? So, why do I end on this? I mean, it's because through all of this rhetoric and politics and things like that, we forget the humanity, right? We forget that everybody has a right to be the best they can, and in that comes, they should have access to certain things, right? And that's my presentation.